You sat down, opened the material, read through it once, felt like you understood it completely, closed the book, and moved on. Confident, maybe even a little proud of how quickly it clicked. No highlighter overload. No rereading the same paragraph 4 times. Just a clean, smooth pass through the content and a quiet sense that you had it handled. Then the test came, or the conversation came, or the real-world moment arrived where you actually needed to use what you learned. And something strange happened. It was not there, not fully, just a faint outline of something you were absolutely certain you knew. Here is why that moment matters more than most people ever stop to consider. The feeling of understanding and the reality of understanding are two completely different neurological events. And people who cannot tell the difference between them do not just underperform on tests. They quietly limit how far their careers go, how deeply their thinking develops, how much of the world they are actually able to navigate with genuine competence, and how often they find themselves confidently wrong in rooms where it costs them something. If you have ever walked out of a class, finished a book, or sat through a training feeling sharp and prepared, only to discover later that almost none of it actually stuck in a usable way, this is going to explain exactly why that keeps happening, and why it is not what you have been told it is. There is a specific kind of person that teachers notice early, not the struggling student, not the one who stays late with questions, fills 3 notebooks or color codes every chapter, the one who breezes through, the one who never seems stressed before an exam, the one who finishes first, leans back, and looks around the room at the students still working with a quiet internal thought. Why does everyone make this so complicated, and then the results come back average, or the project falls short? Or years later, despite being considered sharp their whole lives, they find themselves quietly stuck in ways they genuinely cannot explain, or trace back to anything specific. People around them have a ready explanation. They say, "You have the ability, you just do not apply yourself." And the person hears that message enough times, from enough different directions, that they start to absorb it as the truth. They start to believe the problem is effort, that they are somehow choosing, on some level, not to reach what they are capable of. That belief feels like self-awareness. It is almost never accurate. What is actually happening is something that cognitive scientists have studied carefully and consistently for decades, and it almost never gets explained to the people who most need to hear it. This is the psychology of people who think studying is easy, and the real reason why those same people, reliably and repeatedly, learn less than they believe they are learning in the moment. There is far more going on here than attitude or work ethic. The pattern has a real structure underneath it, and it does not start in a classroom. It starts in the brain's reward circuitry, and in a well-documented phenomenon that researchers consider one of the most underestimated obstacles to genuine learning ever identified. In 1999, David Dunning and Dunning-Kruger at Cornell University published a study that fundamentally shifted how psychologists think about self-assessment and competence. Their finding was precise and repeatable. People with limited knowledge in a given area consistently and sincerely overestimate their own understanding of it, not because they are arrogant or careless, but because the cognitive skills required to recognize the quality of work are the exact same skills required to produce it. When those skills are underdeveloped, the gap between where someone actually is and where mastery really lives becomes genuinely invisible to them. The material feels familiar. Familiarity gets processed as comprehension. The brain files the experience under understood and moves forward without question. But there is a second, deeper layer underneath this that most explanations of the Dunning-Kruger effect never reach. Cognitive psychologists call it the fluency illusion. When information reads smoothly, flows logically, or resembles something encountered before in some form, the brain generates a specific internal sensation, a warm, low-friction feeling that says, "Yes, I know this, I have it," and that feeling, as genuine and convincing as it is in the moment, has almost no relationship to whether the information has actually been encoded into memory in a form that can be retrieved and used when it matters. Reading something and knowing something are not the same neurological event. They just feel identical while they are happening. And that single, quiet confusion, repeated across years of schooling and self-study, is responsible for more failed learning, more misplaced confidence, and more invisible skill gaps than almost any other factor researchers have been able to isolate and measure. This pattern does not emerge from nowhere. For most people carrying it, it was constructed early and reinforced constantly. There is usually a window, somewhere in elementary school or middle school, where a certain kind of kid discovers that things come to them faster than to others. Reading comprehension, early math, basic science. The connections form quickly. The answers arrive before the question is fully finished. And the world responds to that. Teachers call on them. Parents light up. Peers look over at their paper. And piece by piece, without any deliberate intention, the child absorbs a very specific and deeply held identity. I am the one who gets it fast. That identity is not just a belief. It becomes a self-concept the brain will work to protect long after the classroom is gone. So when material eventually gets harder, when the concepts stop being immediately familiar, when one read-through no longer produces that smooth, satisfying feeling of comprehension, the instinctive response is not to slow down and go deeper. It is to skim forward until the fluency feeling returns, to collect that sensation of understanding and move on. Because sitting with confusion, rereading the same section 3 times, not grasping something immediately, all of that feels like a direct threat to the identity that has been working reliably since 3rd grade. The brain does not just want to learn. It wants to protect the narrative that said you were already good at this, and it will sacrifice depth to do it. None of this is about intelligence, and that point deserves to be made without softening it. This is not a story about capable people and less capable people. Some of the most naturally gifted, quickest processing people alive are completely locked inside this pattern. And some people who found early learning genuinely slow and frustrating develop study habits so deliberate and precise that they consistently outperform people who coasted on speed for years. Neither group is better. Neither path is the right one. Brains build what they are rewarded to build. A brain that was rewarded early and often for speed and ease built a system optimized for exactly that. The system is working as designed. The cost just does not show up until the material gets serious. Here is the layer that almost never gets said out loud. The confidence that makes studying feel effortless is also precisely what makes it less effective. Research on what cognitive psychologist Robert Bjork at UCLA calls desirable difficulties found something that goes against every instinct a fast learner has. Learning conditions that feel harder, more frustrating, and less satisfying in the moment produce dramatically stronger retention and real-world transfer of knowledge. Struggle, confusion, retrieving information without looking at it, spacing material across multiple sessions instead of one smooth read. All of these feel worse while they are happening. And every single one of them produces more durable, more usable knowledge than a single fluid pass that left the learner feeling completely satisfied. The person who breezes through is not extracting more from the material. They are extracting a better feeling from it. And the brain, given a straight choice between a better feeling now and deeper encoding for later, will take the feeling every single time unless something actively redirects it. That is not a character flaw. That is exactly how reward systems are built to operate. The quiet cost is knowledge that stays shallow and fades within days. The hidden truth is that the brain is doing precisely what it learned it was supposed to do. If you recognize yourself anywhere in this, here's what is plainly and simply true. You are not short on ability. You are not secretly avoiding your potential. You built a learning pattern that made complete sense inside the environment that shaped you. One where being quick was what earned the recognition, and where working hard at something was the thing you watched other people need. The gap between what you think you know and what you can actually use is not a ceiling. It is a method. And methods can be changed in ways that ceilings cannot. Your experience makes sense all the way through. The confidence is real, the fluency feeling is real, the gap that shows up later is also real. And understanding where it comes from is the first time most people have been able to look at that gap without feeling like it means something permanent and unfixable about them. If you want to start closing that gap, not with a complete overhaul, just one shift that actually changes what your brain retains. Here it is. After finishing anything you want to learn from, close it completely. Do not review notes. Do not skim the summary again. Take a blank page and write down everything you can recall from memory, without any help. Not everything you understood while reading. Everything you can actually pull back right now, unaided. What comes back is what you genuinely know. What stays blank, no matter how familiar it felt during the reading, is what your brain never fully encoded. That single practice, done consistently after any learning session, builds a completely different relationship between you and material over time. It is called retrieval practice, and it is one of the most replicated results in all of learning science. It sounds almost too simple. It is not simple in what it produces. If any part of this landed somewhere real for you, there is more worth understanding about how you are actually wired as a learner and as a thinker. The way confidence shapes your decisions, the way early identity gets mistaken for permanent capacity, the way fast processing can quietly become a ceiling instead of a floor. That architecture runs through far more of your life than just how you study. It shows up in how you prepare, how you handle being wrong in public, and what happens the moment the material finally gets hard enough that speed alone stops being enough. That is worth understanding all the way through.